Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business. Hey, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Matt Burns joining us. Matt, welcome.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this here with you today, Matt. For those who aren't familiar with your work, just take a moment and explain what you do.
Okay, so I'm the creative director of Thirstcraft. We're a design agency and we specialize in the drinks industry. So we specialize in beer, wine, and spirits.
Got it. Okay. Now, I definitely want to dig into that. There's a lot of questions that I have kind of percolating when you say that, and I think will be very relevant for consultants as they're looking to scale up and kind of grow their business. But before we do that, right, before we really dig into your current business and what you guys are all doing at Thirstcraft, let's go back to what you were doing before. I mean, take me back to your school days. What were you studying? What was your goals, your plans? Where were you way back then?
Yeah, cool. So I'm Australian, but we're based in Scotland. So I've been living in Scotland for 6 years. So when I was younger, always into illustration. I love drawing portraits, that sort of thing. And then going through school days, I never really knew exactly what I wanted to pursue as a career. And after leaving school, I eventually studied photography. Didn't really fall in love with it as much as I would have liked. And then eventually started studying graphic design. And, I loved it straight away. Absolutely loved it. Creating brand identities, that sort of thing. And then after leaving design school, I had a job in a design agency in Sydney. And what was great, it was quite a small agency. And what I actually started to learn at that job was sort of the business of design and how you can actually think about design from sort of from a business point of view, really, that it's not just fun and games. You actually need to start thinking about things a little bit more seriously. And I thought it'd be great to work for myself. And at that point, I hadn't really stumbled across the specialization thing yet. That was quite a fair few years later. So after sort of being in that job for a little while and started working for myself, I actually went to a design talk in Sydney one night, and Blair Enns was speaking at that. And that was, it was a big moment for me. I actually remember sitting in that room thinking, wouldn't it be great to specialize in another passion of mine, which was craft beer? Wouldn't that be awesome? And then not too long after that, I started working for a couple of sort of small breweries in Sydney and also a beer publication, but I still had a sort of a large kind of broad range of clients, like corporate clients, lots of stuff really, no real focus in terms of the client list. But there was starting to be a few sort of beer clients there. And then it wasn't until I moved to Scotland, where when I moved here, I wanted to continue to do my graphic design practice. And I tried to bring as many clients with me over to Scotland as possible, but not many of them were interested in working with a designer on the other side of the world. But some of my brewing clients did. So a brewery, Doctor's Orders Brewing, who I still work for now, he was cool with me moving over here, and beer publication as well. And when I moved to Scotland, I didn't have a great deal of work. I was effectively starting from scratch again. So without really any strategy about how to find new clients over here in the UK, I just kept it very simple. I made a spreadsheet of every brewery in Scotland, and I thought I'd email every single one of them thinking, look, all I need is one, all I need is that bite from one. And I did. I got a bite from a brewery here in Scotland called Fine Ales. They're a very, very well respected brewery, and they were the base really. They were that starting point. What also happened, when I started working for Fine Ales, I became very good mates with the marketing manager there, who we became really close. And then we started talking about maybe we should go into business together. And we wanted to start a brewery, but we don't know how to brew. So that was a bit of a problem.
Right.
Yeah. We also wanted to open a bar, which, we still might one day. But at the time, we didn't really have any capital to put into creating a bar. So we thought, let's stick to our guns and do what we're good at, which was effectively selling beer. So on the marketing side and me on the design side.
Did he leave his position at Fine Ales to join you?
Yeah, that's right. And I think our vision from the beginning was to almost be like this satellite marketing office for a lot of the breweries around the UK,
right,
who couldn't really kind of afford a marketing team, so to speak. So we thought we could offer our skills and knowledge to service these breweries. And It's completely for the sort of that craft beer industry. And I think like that kind of evolved quite quickly, sort of the marketing side in terms of like, social media and marketing strategies and that sort of thing. That part of the business wasn't really firing as much as the design side. The design side was doing great. We were working for a lot of breweries here in the UK, but also at the time we were working for some breweries in Belgium, Australia and New Zealand. We were started working for like a soft drink company in Hong Kong. So the design side was really firing and the marketing side not so much. And what we found, like my business partner, Chris, what we found that he was doing a lot of as well was really looking after the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we did stumble upon it by accident, but I think looking back now, that was actually one of the best things to happen to us, where we had someone dedicated to looking after the operation of the business, where I could focus on the design side.
So Matt, let me jump in because there's so much that you've shared here in just a couple of minutes. And the reason why I really want to have you come on to the Consulting Success podcast here is because of your decision to really specialize. I mean, I find that fascinating. And there's other stuff here that you just mentioned in terms of, marketing and how you actually started the business. So let's come back to that. Let's talk first about the specialization because there's a lot of levels of specialization, right? I mean, starting off, you could have just decided to be a design consultancy, right? Doing all kinds of different graphic design or web design or print design, right? There's a lot of different areas. And so we could look at that as almost like the most broad top level. Then you could have also decided to say, you know what, we're going to be a design agency or consultancy specializing only in branding. But even within branding, right, there's a lot of different kinds of branding from visual identities and logos and all that kind of stuff. Then you could have just also gone and said, okay, we're going to be experts in packaging and do all kinds of different packaging from products and, boxes and so on and so forth, retail, all these different things. You took it even a level further than that. You said we're going to be real specialists, consultants and experts in packaging for beer, wine, spirits. There's so many levels of specialization there. Just talk me through a little bit more. I mean, I know you said that for you, craft beer was likely still is a real kind of passion and area of interest, but how did you get there? What really pushed you to say, I'm going to hone in and just focus to this level?
Yeah, well, I'm the kind of guy, if I'm going to do something, I do it all out. And when I fell in love with beer, I thought, this is what I want to do. I don't just want to do the design for it, but I want to know everything about it. And by no means am I like as great an expert about beer as other people, but for a design agency, I think, we could have the most knowledge out of anyone. And so I think that specialization has really kind of evolved over time, I guess. So for instance, when we first started out, I think we were specializing within the beer industry, but we were still quite broad because we weren't just doing design and packaging. We were doing like social media and marketing as well. So we really refined that specialization over time.
Yeah.
I think what really triggered it for me in the beginning was I remember Blair saying, the world doesn't need another generalist. And I was listening to one of your podcasts, actually. The gentleman's name was Tony Sigonori. Yeah, right. He was saying in that, it's not about the stories you tell, it's about the questions you ask. And I think that was, absolutely brilliant. That really, really, it's not something I've kind of thought of before, but I was like, that's exactly right, because, we can walk into a room with any brewery and we know like their business challenges. We know what brewery ticks, and I don't think any other agency would know that. So rather than be like that sort of generalist kind of design agency, we thought we'd be the experts in the field. And that would be a great way to just leverage what we do. And, we love beer, we love wine, we love spirits. So it's quite an easy kind of industry to be passionate about and be specialist in.
I think one thing that you just mentioned there is so important. So just for everyone listening or reading the transcript afterwards to hone in on this, and that is that you didn't arrive at your final destination of clarity around your ideal clients and where you really want to focus until after you started taking action, right? So many people who are wanting to specialize or want to grow their business think that they have to have everything done from day one. And so they end up spending so much time thinking and planning and trying to get everything right that they don't actually take action. Here, right, you took action and you learned that social media and, management of other kinds of marketing, even though initially you tried it and you thought it's what would work, just didn't resonate or didn't kind of create the response or the results that you were looking for. And so you adjusted. That is what actually allowed you to get to where you are today. right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Like it's constantly evolving. Even the way we specialize is constantly evolving. So, it's almost like we started off doing beer and that was pretty much what we did. It was beer. And then the natural kind of progression from beer was the spirit, especially in Scotland. There's so many opportunities within the spirits industry here. And then the natural progression from wine and then soft drinks. And I think as that drink industry kind of broadened a little bit, what we did at the same time was reduce the amount of services that we're offering. So that really still maintained a really high level of focus. So for instance, for quite a long time, we were doing websites, but we realized, our strengths are really in the brand and packaging. So let's get stronger and push that harder, but reduce the amount of services that we're offering. So the idea of the specialization is always it's evolved as we have. It's kind of like a loose kind of strategy. It's quite organic, I guess. We're not really saying, we have to do it. It has to be this way. We're kind of being responsive to time, really. It's funny. We're not too calculated, I guess.
Well, it sounds like you have a direction, right? And you're moving towards it. And rather than trying to have everything just right, you're taking what I often refer to as imperfect action. You're moving in that direction, learning along the way. And that's what's helping you to make real progress. So let me ask you, because I think a lot of people will be listening to this and a lot of people will feel that it's resonating with them in terms of knowing that they should be focusing more and that there's greater refinement they can make. But the big elephant in the room, right? The big challenge that holds people back is the mindset of they're going to lose opportunities. So for you, as you're moving through this, my guess would be that you also faced some kind of resistance in your own mind or from other people that you were working with, where by saying, okay, we're only going to be focusing on the beverage industry and kind of craft beer and wine and spirits, it means that you're then losing a lot of other potential business that may come your way or that you could land. How did you deal with that?
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early-stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early-stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
It's a really good question. I suppose it's something that I tend not to think about. It's potentially something that I'd get quite bogged down in and I'd lose kind of focus, so rather than thinking about that too much, I'd probably tend to just really focus on what I'm trying to achieve because I know it works, I've just been really quite confident in the idea of this working. And at first it was quite slow, I guess. And I think especially when I was still a one-man band, I was still half-heartedly specializing, I was kind of believed in it and that's where I wanted to get to, but I still had to do the odd jobs on the side just to make sure that it would work. But once
you did. So you actually, when you first started, you were doing work in different areas.
So this was more so when I was still back in Sydney and when I first moved to Scotland. Yeah.
Got it. So okay.
Formed first with my business partner, Chris. So I think there was that idea, especially when I was still a one-man band, that this is what I wanted to achieve. But when we made that commitment and when we had those first few clients in the door, it was yep, let's just do this. Let's 100% go at it and not look back.
Love it. Yeah. A big thing I often recommend to people who are thinking through kind of trying to deal with this challenge in their mind is that the most important commitment to make is where you're going to be, who your ideal clients are and where you're going to focus your efforts for marketing. But in the early days, if you get business that comes your way from a completely different industry, as long as you feel that you want to take that project on and then it aligns with your overall goals and it feels right to you, there's nothing wrong with taking that on in the early days. It's business. The key is that you have focus and that your energy is put towards a specific area so that you can really make an impact in there rather than putting your energy across so many different industries and so many different types of ideal clients. So that sounds really like what you were essentially doing. Now, talk to me about when you first came to Scotland and you made the decision that you really wanted to get into craft beer and doing kind of branding and design and that kind of consulting work with people in those industries. You made a list of all the different breweries and you sent them an email, a letter? Like, what did you actually send out to them?
Yeah, it was just an email. Like I had like a portfolio, which is like packaged up in a PDF. And yeah, like I look back now and puts a smile on my face because I'm like, I wouldn't do that sort of thing now, I guess. But I thought, I suppose even when Chris and I joined forces, and we didn't really have any clients at first and we didn't really have any money coming in. It's the same sort of scenario. I think you kind of go into almost like this survival mode and you just try and think of a way of joining dots together. And at that time when I've moved here, I thought, this is my way of joining those dots together. Let's just make a spreadsheet. Let's just gather up the email addresses and then just hope that one gets back in touch. I think I emailed, Scotland's quite a small country, so I think I emailed it was like 60 breweries or something like that at the time. And my vision was that I'll build the career, I'll build the craft beer portfolio in Scotland around them. And that's exactly what happened. I suppose I put myself into a position for some good luck to happen.
Well, yeah, you took the first step towards something potentially happening, right? So you sent out 60 emails. Did you do some follow-up or not?
The one that wrote back, it was quite fortunate. They were actually a really well-respected brewery. And there was a few other little bites, but I thought that one that I got, they actually gave me a fair bit of work, which was great. And off the back of that, tried to use those works to then go back out to the other breweries to show them that, this is what I'm doing now with the brewery here in Scotland, and these are the sort of things I can do for you. But it was quite slow. It wasn't the easiest at times, and that probably took a good 3 years to actually gather up any sort of momentum where I wasn't having to go fishing a lot for clients. My profile was starting to grow after that sort of 4 year period. And then I actually sort of found work sort of coming to me rather than having to go find it.
So let's talk about those 3 years, right? You land this first client, right? They're sending plenty of business your way. Things are going well. Sounds like you're surviving. You're eating, you're taking care of yourself. But in order to really build a business, get, that second, third, fourth, fifth client, what did you do? How did you land those clients?
A great way that I've always found generating work in the design industry, and this is even outside the drinks industry, is there's a great sort of online journals, blogs, that sort of thing. I think if a lot of breweries out there or distillers, winemakers, if they're going to look to revitalize their brand or get a new piece of packaging for the new winery, so to speak, one of the first things they might do is go onto a packaging design blog. So that's a great place to go and have your work featured. And we do that now. It's a part of our religion at first. When we finish a piece of work, we go and have it, we photograph it, and we create a nice looking project out of it, and then we send it out to all the blogs, because that's where our work comes from, really. Rather than going and doing all the door knocking, we think that the first place that a potential client of ours will go look is a blog. That's a massive part of it, and that's what I did back then as well. As soon as I finished the project, I was straight onto as many blogs as I could, and I tried to send that work out there to get it all over the internet.
And when you say send it to them, so these are blogs that there's a designer or someone that's running the blog, and they just feature they hand select work that they like and then write about it and talk about it? Or is it more like a portfolio type of website?
No, so basically you'll submit it to them and they will choose whether to feature it or not. So,
got it.
So not always do they feature your work, they are quite selective, but I think that's quite a good thing, keeps up the high caliber of work they feature. But the amount of work and amount of referrals that we receive from blogs is, it's enormous. But it also another thing that I was doing in those early days as well was like the beer industry. It's very word of mouth and it's very kind of network based. So I was trying to meet as many people as I could. And if there was ever an opportunity I could be referred by another brewery, I'd definitely pursue that. It was a bit of a slow grind at first, but yeah, I just had to believe that it was going to work.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. I mean, a lot of us, when we're getting started in the early days, will certainly face this where things don't always go smoothly. Sometimes it feels like you're really pushing a big rock up the mountain. But when you get to that tipping point, I mean, it's amazing. I've worked with hundreds of consultants all around the world in many different industries, and I consistently see that you'll always, as long as you're doing the right things and, you have the right plan in place and you're working it consistently, you're going to reach that tipping point. And when you reach that tipping point, things change. It's like, it'll feel like overnight, some magical successes come your way, but it's actually been the accumulation of everything that you've been putting into this over time. And it sounds like for you, Matt, sending your work to blogs and building relationships and getting referrals and just putting the word out there as much as you can over that period of time, then suddenly you hit that tipping point. And so when you hit that tipping point, then you start getting a lot more work coming your way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things that we say here. I think one of your biggest enemies in this sort of work is complacency. As soon as you become complacent, that's when things go bad. One of the best things that I ever do, I'm the creative director, so I'm not good when it comes to the accounts and all that stuff, that's not my strong point. But see, sure. Chris, my business partner, he's got great control of the business, but what that has allowed us to do is it allows me to focus on the projects, focus on the design aspects of the projects and look after our creative team, where Chris is keeping the business ticking over as well. And I think that is what allows us to always be thinking about like what's next, rather than when it was by myself doing the design work, I was doing the business development, I was trying to do the accounts, I was trying to get the stuff onto the blogs. And eventually when you're doing one thing, you're not spending time on the other thing. So when you have a business partner who is actually not doing like the craft of the company, he's actually doing the completely other different aspect of the company, that allowed the business to thrive really. So I think that's one of the things that I'd always say to another graphic designer looking to join business with someone. I'd be more, rather than joining forces with another graphic designer, I'd immediately join forces with someone who's actually just going to look after the company, because it just makes a lot of sense. And we did stumble across it by accident, but it's one of the best things that's ever happened to us.
So essentially what I'm hearing you say is that it's a kind of a design consultancy. The approach that you've used to scale your business is that of building your team, right? Partnering and bringing together people with complementary skills that then allows you to, and allows everyone to focus on their areas of greatest value, and put together is what really moves things forward.
Absolutely.
Is everyone full-time, aside from you and Chris, or do you typically just use contractors on an as-needed basis, or what's your team setup?
Yeah, so everyone at first is full-time. So the growth has kind of happened quite organically, where people initially were contractors, and as we've grown, people have signed up to be full-time. But I think that's what we really love as well. And we try and make sure, I think when you have contractors, we were always wondering where the focus was, if they were truly focused on working towards what the company's trying to achieve. But when people are full-time, you get their 100% dedication, which it's quite different, having someone full-time and fully dedicated to company versus contractors where they have lots of different clients, lots of different responsibilities. So as soon as we could make someone full-time, we did. So I think our growth's sort of been mainly on the design front, and sort of during the middle of last year, we've hired someone. She's like our strategic director, which is strengthened us in a completely other way. So she really thinks about projects from a completely strategic point of view. So that's sort of formalizing the creative brief, really working with the clients to work out what's going on in their head. And so it allows us designers to not have to worry about the client's problems as much, and just purely focus on the creative problems at hand. Yeah, so we're a team of 6 at the moment, looking to become 7 quite soon.
Beautiful. Well, this has been a really enjoyable conversation, Matt. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your story here. Really, again, just find your focus fascinating and love the work that you do. Is checking it online for everyone listening to this. Make sure that you go over and just check out the work that this company is up to. It's really quite spectacular. So with that said, Matt, what's the best way for people to learn more about your work and to connect with you?
Yeah, our website is thirstcraft.com, and we're on all the platforms. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yeah, if anyone would like to get in touch, just drop us a line.
Perfect. Well, again, Matt, thanks so much for coming on.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.